Well, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, November 15th, 319th day of the year. There are only 46 days left in the year 2022. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. My heart soars like a hawk. A line I borrowed from Chief Dan George in the film Little Big Man as my opening comment at this past weekend celebration of the Forgotten Ones on the campus of Auburn University. What a wonderful morning it was. The James Owens Foundation held its second scholarship breakfast where 3 young ladies were presented scholarships to further their college education. The highlight of the morning was the return of the Forgotten Ones. 30-something former athletes from the 1970s, black athletes I might add, returned to campus, many for the first time since they either graduated, their eligibility ended, or they transferred. For many, it was a homecoming that was long, long overdue. With Auburn's president, athletic director, a member of Auburn's board of trustees, and the board of directors of the James Owens Foundation in attendance, and a memorable keynote speech. You had to be there. By former Olympian Harvey Glance. It was a memorable affair. The deceased James Owens, Auburn's first black football player and for whom the foundation is named, would have been proud. All of us in attendance certainly were. Our G-list guest today is Gloria Owens, the president of the James Owens Foundation. We look forward to having that conversation. This edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Barbara Wallace Edwards, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, good morning. Doing well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Michael?
I am doing well, Thom. I hope you are. Can you hear me?
I do.
Okay, great.
So either one of you, Barbara, well, I'll start with you. What was your highlight? What was your highlight or takeaway from this past weekend's event?
Thom, I of course, I'm on the board for the James Owens Foundation, and I had high hopes that it was going to be a very successful event, and it surpassed my wildest dreams to see all of those trailblazers from the 70s back in that room. And like you say, some of them who hadn't returned to Auburn since they left as students. And I think just seeing all those people back, and then Harvey Glance, our keynote speaker for the day, he was phenomenal. And just telling his story, there was something I learned about Harvey that I didn't really know. I'd forgotten that he was the first Black head coach in this University of Alabama and at Auburn University. So, that was a highlight for me. I thought I knew everything about Auburn. I'd go back and do research on Auburn University all the time, especially when it comes to the Black students and Black alum, and learning something new about him and the university. It was phenomenal.
It was. And let me just say this before I go to Michael, is that the James Owens Foundation, which is named for James Owens, who was the first African-American football player at Auburn University, had an event, actually a breakfast, it's the second one, where athletes that are being called the forgotten ones, because they were there in the 1970s. And I think people think that Black athletes started at Auburn with Bo and Charles, which there was a whole decade ahead of that. And so many of these guys left, and they were guys. There was one woman, we'll talk about that. But they left, and they've never been back. Many of them left angry. Many of them left disappointed in the treatment they received, and so on and so forth. And so this was the second event that we've had like this, and it was absolutely wonderful. So, Michael, what was your highlight?
Well, it was so many, Thom, to be honest with you, but I want to start with the synergy that was in the room and how everybody came together. And those of us who haven't seen each other, I guess we say 30 years or more, what have you, it was just like we picked right up from where we left off. Yes. It was so great to see J.B. Brown and Joe Cribbs. I've spoken to Joe a couple times over the years and visited him when he was in Buffalo and I happened to be there. But to see everybody face to face and the camaraderie and the love that was in the room for everybody, that was just fantastic. Because, back in those days, there were very few of us, so we all knew each other,
We were family.
Yeah, exactly. We all
family.
Looked out for each other and what have you. And I haven't seen Mitzi in several years, and to spend time with Mitzi on Friday night, you and I and Thom, and Mitzi and I had an opportunity to talk about a lot of things. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, I was telling Spencer that was talking with us, Thom, that Mitzi was the person that introduced me to you when I was in high school. And Spencer said, well, have you forgiven Mitzi for doing that? The other thing that I have to say that was really good was to have the official dignitaries from Auburn, if you will. Yes. President Chris Roberts, he attended the new president. The new athletic director was there. The associate or assistant athletic director was there. We had a member of the board of trustees. A lot of these people that came to be a part of this, and they really enjoyed it. And I think they were really surprised. And I guess a personal highlight for me was the fact that my old high school basketball coach, Larry Chapman, was there.
Yes.
And when I walked into the room, Flea, Eric Simmons, some people call him Butch, he came up to me and said, wasn't Coach Chapman your high school basketball coach? I said, yeah. He said, well, he's right over there. So I went over there, and Coach Chapman and I just got into a conversation, and we were there talking for almost an hour or so before things got going. So it was just like a big family reunion for me.
It was.
Yeah,
it really was.
It was fantastic. A lot of the guys I've had some contact with, Virgil was my first roommate when I moved into the athletic dorm, and Virgil transferred and went to Jacksonville State and played ball over there and graduated. But he and I were really close. And there's if I hear the Doobie Brothers Long Train Running, I think of Virgil, because Virgil introduced me to Grand Funk and a lot of the different music from that, is ZZ Top and things like that. And then I was roommates with James for a year. His last year, we were roommates. And then I was roommate with Mitzi for a couple of years. And so to be in the room with them, to see Clifford Outland, oh man, that was just, and as I opened up, my heart soars like a hawk. Mm-hmm. And it really did. I mean, to see Clifford, And he has some health issues.
Right.
To see the flea,
Yes.
Man, Albert Johnson. These were guys, there were so few of us, but we all supported each other.
Yes.
If the basketball was playing with Albert and Sylvester and those guys, then we went and we cheered for them. JB was the only black guy on the baseball team.
Right.
And I don't know how much Coach Nix let him play, but we were all there for him all the time. And
Right.
so it was just really, really, and you, I think, Michael, you mentioned President Chris Roberts. It was remarkable. We've gone now from the 70s to where we had literally no support from the university.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that President Philpott listened to us and did bring some things in that we requested. So he was a good guy. But Chris Roberts was there for 3 hours.
Yes.
And then he took pictures with everybody and
Yes.
just had a great time.
Yes.
And that was just so special. It meant so much for me to just remove myself from it and to sit back and watch it.
Yes.
It was just beautiful. And the athletic director, the brand new athletic director, who I'm sure had some other things he could have been doing. And matter of fact, he did. He said he had to leave. He stayed about maybe an hour.
Right.
And he left.
But just not just them, Thom. Their wives were there.
That's right.
John Cohen's and Rich McLean's wife were both there as well, and both of them came up to me afterwards and with tears in their eyes, saying, "We had no idea. This was like a history lesson for us today, and we want to find a way to give back. We want to find a way to support this great organization and this cause." So I talked about Harvey and his being a wonderful speaker, but he had us laughing. He had us crying because just his story was just so impactful. And like he said, everyone in that room had a story. There's something that we all could have shared about our time at Auburn that was probably in some cases funny, in other cases it was just sad. So
and in other cases it probably still makes you a little angry.
Yes. Yes.
Raymond Crump talked to me about the hair issue, and I got kicked off the team over the hair issue. And the hair issue was that Coach Jordan went off on Mitzi Jackson because he had some facial hair. It was off season. There's nobody around or anything. And then it was determined that although Coach Jordan was the football coach, he really ran everything.
Right.
And he determined that everybody had to shave. Nobody could have facial hair. Whereas the basketball coach, Bob Davis, and the track coach, Coach Rosen, didn't care.
Right.
They said it's okay for their guys to have facial hair, and Suge overruled them. And the athletic director at that time, I think, was Lee Haley, who went along with Coach Jordan. And we had gone from maybe 5 black athletes to about 14 with all those guys who came in. Now, there were several guys whose names were on the list who were deceased. And so quite naturally, doesn't make sense to say they weren't there. But I was, I think at that point, the oldest.
Right.
So in order to try to cool things down, I told the guys that I would go over and see if I could talk with Coach Davis, who was the assistant head coach. And he was a little more reasonable. But I got the answer I always got when they didn't want to deal with something. He said, "No, you got to go talk to the man." Well, the man was Coach Jordan. I walked in Coach Jordan's office, and he told me right off the bat, I don't want to hear nothing about Black Power. And it's like,
Wow.
Coach, what are you talking about? You know?
Wow.
And we were just, the communication was like this. And he didn't want to hear anything about Black Power. He didn't want to hear anything about, he started telling me that O.J. Simpson and Bill Cosby, neither one of them had mustaches. And I messed around and said, well, my father does,
Right.
Coach Jordan. And, I prefer to be like my father than to be like either one of them.
Yes.
That sort of paid out because both of them been in jail.
Right.
So it was those, Raymond and I had relived that conversation.
Yes.
And when all the black athletes then left.
But Thom, it's funny you mentioned the hair situation, because I remember it very vividly because I was caught up in it too. And the reason being is whatever went down at Auburn University went down at Auburn High. So what you guys were going through, we experienced it too. And I remember when Coach Chapman told all us on the basketball team we couldn't have facial hair. And a lot of us was wondering, well, where is that coming from? And I remember being like in the 9th grade, 10th grade, he was telling us we needed to shave, And you mentioned, Thom, about what Coach Jordan said about O.J. and Bill Cosby not having facial hair. It was kind of told to us that people didn't trust people with mustaches or facial hair.
What?
Yes. We got that too and stuff.
Wow.
But enough of us on the basketball team kind of stood our ground. And although he tried to implement it, and I think we all maybe shaved like once or twice, and then we said, no, we're not doing this. And we went back. But we had enough of us that they couldn't win without us, in other words. So if we stuck together, then we would win. And so that's what happened. And then Coach Chapman just let it go and stuff like that. But yeah, we experienced that same thing. Well,
I do think that, and I think afterwards, I don't know if you guys remember, but Eddie Johnson was on the front page of the Montgomery Advertiser, and Eddie Johnson said, "I don't recommend that any black students come to this university."
Yes.
Well, that broke the camel's back. That was, at that point, the university had to do something.
Right.
And Coach Jordan had to reconsider the whole thing. President Philpott told us, there was me, Mitzi, and Sullivan, 3 football players, that we could continue with our scholarships and we could go to school. And if Coach Jordan didn't want us on the team, then that was, that's Coach Jordan ran that team. And so if he didn't want us on the team, then we wouldn't be on the team. But we could stay in school until we graduated and keep our scholarships. And at that point, Coach Jordan had wanted to have a talk with us, and everything blew over, so to speak. But the solution in the end could have been the solution in the beginning, and that was just to sit down and talk. Now, one thing I give Coach credit though. After that, every Thursday, I was either go over there or was supposed to go over there, and we talked. Coach and I talked, and it was 1974. Coach had started coaching in 1951, and things were changing. The 70s were an era of change.
Yes.
We wore big afros, we wore funny looking clothes, and boots and all kinds of things.
Right.
And whenever you see a movie or something, you can tell if it's from the 70s.
Yes. That was a distinct style for sure.
It's funny you mentioned the big afros. I remember when I first grew my afro and had a big afro, and my grandparents did not like that. My grandfather said to me, it was so funny. He said, "Are you trying to be a yippie?" I said, what?
A
I said,
yippee.
what is a yippee? I said, oh, you mean a hippie? I said, no, I'm still going to take a bath and act like I have since. It's just a hairstyle.
Yeah. Oh, it was a wonderful era, and
It
as trying as it was, I probably wouldn't trade it. There were quite a few people there, white students, who were, I can remember the articles in the Plainsman who were very much in favor of a lot of the stuff we were trying to do. I think they're probably the one thing the one refrain I hear from most of the athletes who were there at that time, in that room on Saturday, is they don't feel their athletic potential was reached.
Absolutely.
They felt like they were kind of held back.
Right.
And I know that's the feeling from myself and Mitzi,
Right.
Cedric, Byron, JB, the baseball team. Now, it's kind of hard to hold the track guys back.
Right.
When Clifford came out of the box, he came out of those blocks.
Right.
He was going to come in first.
Right.
But
yes. But Wendell Merritt, Jordan, I talked with her for hours last night, and she, had the same sentiment. She said, she was great player in high school. She said she came to Auburn, and they didn't even really as basketball coach. She said the coach they assigned to the women's basketball team had no previous basketball experience. I think she coached tennis or something before, or played tennis and another sport. And she said she came to Auburn. She said she was great, but she got no further development after that. And she said, so she came to Auburn to get a degree. She said it wasn't about playing basketball with her. She appreciated the scholarship. She said, but she really didn't. It wasn't all about basketball for her, because she felt like there's nothing you can teach me because you don't even know the game. So, that was really interesting as well.
Yeah. So I think one of the wonderful things about this past weekend, if you went there still angry over what happened, you left there ecstatic and happy and proud of your university.
Right.
I think I say, it was for the forgotten ones were all Black, but it was a great day for Auburn University.
Absolutely.
And that, thanks to those administrators who was there, thanks to everybody who came, thanks to the Owens Foundation, it was a great day for Auburn. Let me jump subject right quick, and we'll get back on that subject when we have Gloria, who will be our guest. But Cadillac, tell me what your guys' reactions are.
And I am so proud of Cadillac and the team, and how he's motivated that team, not just the team, but the Auburn fan base, the alumni. He has everybody so fired up. I was at the game on Saturday night, and it's been a long time since there's been that much excitement around Auburn football. So that was just amazing. I'm so proud of him and the entire coaching staff and the team. There's a lot of fight in that team and a lot of unity. And I certainly appreciate that.
Well, my comment, of course, I'm very happy for Cadillac and what he's done. And I mentioned that even in the loss at Mississippi State, Auburn was playing inspirational football. He's inspired them to really give their all. And the other couple things he said that these players were broken with all the stuff they've been through, and they needed to be loved and appreciated and encouraged. And he's doing a lot of that. And you can tell with the effort that they're giving. I dare to say, or I venture to say, that had the other coach been there, we would have lost these two games.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Absolutely, we would have lost these two games. The other thing that I like, and this, I don't know, to me is common sense, but maybe to other people.
If common sense was so common, why don't everybody have it?
I know. The minute I said it, I thought
that from
about
my
that.
Yeah, right.
The minute I said that, I thought about it. You know, but what I mean by that, Kendall Simmons, who we've had on the show before,
Yeah.
who played offensive guard at Auburn, All-American, All-SC, drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, won a Super Bowl there, played with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl there. And my favorite coach, Gus Malzahn, had him as an analyst. Okay. Brian Harsin kept that tradition going as an analyst. Well, now he's out there on the field coaching the offensive line.
Yes.
That offensive line, it's the difference between night and day, the way they
It
played the
is.
earlier part of the year and the way they've been playing the last two games.
Right.
There were no holes for the running backs to even run through. Okay. So what's the difference? And I just don't understand, if you are a head coach, and a head coach is equivalent to a CEO of a business, you put the people in the best position in order to reach your goal. Now, if you don't know what that is, then maybe you don't need to be a head coach or a CEO. But it's pretty plain and simple to me. That was the first thing I would have done, was put Simmons down there and make him an on-field coach dealing with my offensive line, because he can bring the experience that these other people do not have. So it's little things like that that I see that Cadillac is doing, and I'm real happy to see the adjustment.
Yes.
I think the adjustment from first game to the second game was a big jump.
Yes.
He has those kids believing. I was in 73. We had 72. We were 10-1. We had a great season. 73. We were divided. We were a divided bunch of guys, and that makes you miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You just want it to be over. At one point, our record was 6-2. We ended up 6-6.
Wow.
And that just and I've got my reasons for it. I just think we were a divided team. We were a team that didn't have the spark and the energy. The next year, we had new coaches, and Coach Jordan was still the head coach, but he brought in Coach Barfield as the offensive coordinator, and we were allowed to have fun when we played, and we were energetic. And so it makes a difference. And I think, I don't know Coach Harsin, and I don't think he did a good job. But just his attitude on the sideline, it was, there was no spark. There was no fight.
Right.
I don't know if you guys saw Green Bay was playing somebody. What's that quarterback they got? He's kind of half hippie, half something. But anyway,
Aaron Rodgers.
He got into it with the coach.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like the play caller.
Right.
Oh.
And
Wow.
oh man, I couldn't tell what he was saying, but he was blasted. He was laying that coach out.
Wow.
And, it takes fire to play football.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some energy you have to conjure up. And so are these the same kids that we had under Harsin? Yeah, but they're totally different now.
Totally different. Yes.
They're totally different. And if we could ever get a good quarterback coach that could coach Robbie,
Right.
teach him how to play quarterback, not just
Right.
play because he's got a lot of ability,
Oh, yes.
but how to play, I think we could be really special.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing about the Aaron Rodgers situation is my issue is the way that it was covered. They mentioned that he was laying into the coach, as you said, but that was okay because it was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a real issue with that because all of us on this show know, had it been Cam
Yes.
or anybody else that looks like me,
Mm-hmm.
that'd been a problem, and they'd still be talking about it.
Right.
And the same with Brady when he lit into the offensive line.
Right.
Right. But that's okay because they're showing leadership. I mean, that's the way it's defined. That's leadership.
Yes.
What would Cam be showing?
Aggressiveness.
Well, he would be showing
Anger.
subordination.
Okay.
Subordination would be what he's showing. Okay.
He's overly aggressive. They'll use that word a lot, or he's angry.
Anger is the word.
Yes.
And oftentimes when you are what I call a big black man, if your voice is raised a little bit, then you're considered angry.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they use that a lot in corporate America, Thom. If you're one color, then you're very assertive. You get things done, and in another color, you're overly aggressive. It's the same. You say the same thing the same way, but people define it totally different.
One last thing before we go, let's go to Gloria. I also want to thank immensely Board of Trustee member Tim Vines.
Yes.
He and his wife were there.
Yes, they were.
And they were there the whole time, and they were incredibly supportive. And
yes, they were.
I just want to thank them. It's the first time I'd been around Tim. I'd known him over the years, but
Right.
a gentleman, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
It was
and he, of course, Tim played baseball at Auburn as well, and he and his wife were so excited to meet J.B. Brown, who was the first Black baseball player at Auburn, and they were, wanting to take pictures with him, and it was a beautiful, beautiful scene to see them, witness them conversing and having conversation.
And I'm glad for JB because that was a lonely experience he had.
Yes.
We would see him out there, but I don't know if he got into games or not.
He played some.
I saw
we would go to some of the games. Yes.
Yeah, he got in, and he ended up playing with the White Sox for a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, let's move forward. People want to know how JB's doing in the chat. JB's doing fine. He's doing great, and it was just so good to see him. And is the hair issue when Coach Jordan retired? He retired maybe the next year. We had a great year in 74. We were 10-2 and finished number 8, I think. And the next year, the wheels kind of came off again, and I think he retired after that. So,
right.
And also, I think he was sick, and kind of kept that under wraps. So, listen, I don't have anything against Coach Jordan. He was my coach. And he tolerated me because I was the one who was willing to go and sit down and try to have conversations with him. It was such a different era. Our parents didn't have, we were all first generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so my daddy didn't know he could call up Coach Jordan and say, hey, when are you going to let my son catch a bag?
Right.
We didn't have that.
Right.
So, but it worked out. So let's move on, and we can pick it up on the other side. So I want to introduce Sean to Sean's Got a Minute segment. Sean, are you out there? What's happening in Got a Minute?
Good morning. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope you all are well and enjoying the weather. I can personally use some weather that is under 70 degrees because in Florida, I'm burning up. Now, today, I have some fun facts for you. Did you know that Psycho was the first movie to show a flushing toilet? Or the green code in The Matrix was actually created from symbols in the code designer's wife's sushi cookbook. Or there are no muscles in our fingers. They function by the muscles in our palms and arms. Last but not least, the word strengths is the longest word in the English language with only one vowel. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Thank you, Shantia. Where's the applause for you, Shantia? Okay. Well, gotta applaud yourself. If you don't, nobody else will.
That's right.
Anyway, let's move on to our G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Gloria Owens, the president of the James Owens Foundation. So we've been talking about it, so we don't need to introduce it. We can take that time and talk to Gloria. Good morning, Gloria Owens.
Good morning, Thom.
How are you?
I'm better. I
Have
thought
you
my computer wasn't going to allow me to join you this morning. So I'm thankful just to see you all faces.
Oh, okay. You had technical issues?
Most definitely.
Okay.
I got Google off to the right and couldn't get it back to the left. So I could click on get to my Gmails and oh my God.
You're not the only one. So it happens. And I think when Barbara first came on, it was a couple of months before we could get hers.
About 6 months.
To cooperate.
Yes.
And so we've had some other issues. So the Owens Foundation breakfast was awesome. I asked them what their highlight. What was your highlight?
My highlight, I did not have a specific one because everything came together. And I guess you could say the speech from Harvey was everyone's highlight because he touched on issues that affected all of us. You know, it was a remembrance and a reminder. For some, it was a remembrance for some and a reminder for others. And to see it all come together, and it exceeded my wildest dreams that we could bring together everyone and to see the happiness, the volume of joy that was throughout it. It was a grand reunion, and we're just so happy to have been a part of it and trying to pull it all together. And it's thanks to everyone. It wasn't one individual, but a massive group of networks working together.
So, Barbara, you got a question?
I do. Yeah, Ms. Gloria, I know being on the board, I know it took a lot of planning to get this thing off the ground, but if you would share with our viewers, what was the concept behind the breakfast and what was the purpose for it and how long had you been working on this event?
Well, the purpose of the breakfast was for to fund our scholarship and other programs of the foundation. We did our first breakfast in 2019, and that was to celebrate the 50th anniversary of James integrating Auburn football. At that breakfast, several former athletes attended. We set up tents, and after the breakfast, the guys just sat around and talked and enjoyed themselves. So the word got out. So when we started planning this breakfast, we had not initially planned to bring the guys back, but I got a call from Mitzi Jackson and said the guys are ready to come. So that began the inspiration, and we began to do research, shared information, got names from him. Our main resource was the glum, and So it took a lot to bring it together. And the amazing part of it all was that every time one of the former Trailblazers called me, we would be on the phone for hours, just reminiscing and me hearing their story. It was just like a big brother or sister coming back together to enjoy. And some you had not met because, I was part of that group with just Thom, Mitzi, Albert, um, and a few of the other not athletes, but other students that was on the campus at that time because it was less than 100 of us. So we were close, but we didn't have much participation from the athletes because they had curfews and they could participate as much. So it was just amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael.
Well, good morning, Gloria. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And I want to say congratulations on a successful event this past weekend at Auburn. It was outstanding. My question is, what are the next steps for the James Owens Foundation? It seems like you started the first one in 2019. There was a big jump for this one. So what's the next step?
The next step is to, and forgive me, I've still been talking a lot, so a little hoarse, but our next step is to continue to build up on this year. There were some amazing things that came out of this breakfast. I mean, to already have a sponsor for next year, it's amazing. The resources from this breakfast will enable us to give more scholarships, be more valuable in the community. So it's just to continue to build upon and spread the word that the James Owens Foundation is available to assist. There were many things that we could not do due to COVID, and it affected our resources because that Saturday, March 28th, when the country was shut down, we had a walk, and also I had a big sale going on in my house because I was planning to sell it. So it canceled out many things. So for the next 2 years, we really could do very much in the form of fundraising. So we began to continue with the Memorial Walk, which is an annual event. It will be the fourth Saturday in March. Just so happened this past year was March 26th, the date that James passed. So, and we had great participation from the university. Students came out and we got a chance to meet. So we are becoming more known in the community because when I say we, when James and I and the family moved back to the Auburn Opelika area, he was called into the ministry in 1996, and his church was up in Dateville, Alabama. So we wasn't in the Auburn Opelika area much. So, and a lot of people are not familiar with James Owens, and that's the story we wanted to get out, not only about James Owens, but all of the trailblazers who have impacted to bring Auburn to its present path. Because when you start with one and now you're more than 80% of the team, that speaks volume. It took 50 years, but I want the people to know the path that has got them to where they are.
Thank you.
Well, I think one of the big highlights for me was President Chris Roberts being there, spending as much time as he did. He's
Yes.
already volunteered to host the next event at the president's house, which I think will make these guys, and I say guys because most of them are guys, but also the young lady, and I'm sure there will be some other women from the 1970s that we hadn't had time to gather. It would just be an honor for them for this event to be held at the president's home.
Yes, I tell you, I was in awe of the president's humbleness, and I thought that he would have to leave. The AD and the athletic department had shared with me earlier that they would only be able to stay for a short period of time. So we tried to get them closer to the door so they'd be able to ease out. But to have the president of Auburn University to stay for the entire program.
3 hours he was there.
Oh, yes. Yes. Volume. And he mixed, he mingled, he
took pictures.
Yes.
I'm still trying to sort out pictures that I want to post. I've got over 300. And then with having two photographers, when I saw Marvin and our second photographer had not shown up, I said, okay, I need you to take more pictures and send me a bill. So he got on it, and I'm so thankful to the photographer that was there, Kayla, who also have shared pictures with the president's office already at their request. So it was a wonderful gathering, and no one, everybody seemed to be on the same level. Walt and Ginger, we took pictures. General, I tell you, I'm still really, I'm hurting a little bit too, but I'm still on a high, and I just have to give God all the glory because He did exceedingly abundantly above all I could expect or think or imagine. So. We made a lot of contacts, and that's a network that we are building because now we've got people that has, if you put them all together, thousands of years of experience that they can motivate, be a part of a network that says, hey man, I'm retired from this, that, and the other. So it was a network building process too.
Well, and you mentioned Walt and Ginger Woltos, who are just wonderful people. They've already committed to me, or committed to the foundation, that they will be there next year. They were very impressed and just thought it was a wonderful event. And so we'll have to go some next year to top what happened this year. But I think once we figure out what we want to accomplish next year, it should follow pretty easily.
And Thom, we haven't said it, but I want to thank you for serving as the master ceremony. You did an outstanding job of keeping the program flowing, and your comments interspersed with Harvey speaking. It was just that was so great. Inspirational. Yes, thank you.
It was a pleasure. It was.
I agree. Thom has been by James' side from the first time that they met and throughout the years, even like Saturday, when they didn't see each other that often, when they came together, it was just like, hey, I just saw you yesterday. And the conversation, the laughter that came from, the two of them. So I'm just elated to be a part of that friendship that they developed at Auburn and continued up until his passing. But I know he's rejoicing in heaven with what we're trying to do and all of the assistance that we're getting from Thom and the president, athletics. I mean, there were times I just had to sit down when the responses started coming in, especially monetarily. I'm saying, oh God, uh, we can get some help now to help us do some things because even though we are small, it's a large task, especially on the family, but we don't mind. Um, James instilled that in all of us.
You know, I'll just say this, you know, and I said this Saturday. We all referred to James as Daddy
Yes.
and Daddy Owens. Mitzi, where's Daddy? You know, what's Daddy doing? Is Daddy going with us or what have you? That's just the stature he had. That's how we felt about him. He was just that kind of a, when he walked in the room, you know, it was from a racial standpoint, there was a lot of stuff that went on back in that era. And James and I were the two black guys on the team when Virgil left. But I was cool because I was with Daddy. Wasn't nobody gonna bother me because I was with James, and he was just a special man. I don't ever want us to forget Henry,
Right.
because Henry was
Exactly.
first,
Right.
and
Yes.
James has said many, many times that he would have left if it wasn't for Henry.
Right.
Yes.
That Henry gave him the courage and the energy to stay and to deal with it. And Henry was just a great guy. And I would like to see the university have some type of memorial or monument or
Yes.
something to James and Henry. And the
Absolutely.
question I propose is, what's more valuable to the university, for somebody to run for 1,000 yards or for James and Henry to integrate that university and make possible what is happening now?
Absolutely.
And so hopefully the new athletic director, the new president will find some way to honor James and Henry and not hide the whatever monument is like they did for Mr. Franklin,
Right.
Dr. Franklin, with the monument they have for him by the library, but you
Right.
never know it because it's
Yes.
sort of hidden.
Absolutely.
And these two men deserve as much credit for what is happening now in athletics. They deserve credit for Bo and for Charles and for all
Right.
those athletes that have followed.
Right.
Just my
So
thoughts.
true.
Well, I love that when we had the 50th anniversary celebration, we did not leave out Henry. He was part of us with that
Yes.
walk. And that was a relationship formed. A lot of people didn't know that Auburn kept James and Henry separated from each other when James first came to Auburn. And it was only their meeting in the dining hall that they really got a chance to sit down and converse with each other. And that friendship that that was needed to assist both of them to overcome and deal with certain issues that were going on at the time. So that brotherhood was formed, and it was a continuous relationship until Henry's passing, which was on the eve of our wedding. You know,
Oh,
James.
wow.
Yeah, James came down that Friday and we were supposed to go to the courthouse and he was all sad. So I'm getting upset and said, hey, if you've changed your mind about marrying me, just let me know.
Right.
And then when he told me that he had got word of Henry's passing, and
Yeah.
we
Wow.
went to his funeral, but there's a question mark as to what happened.
Well, Sam Hayes has written a great book about Henry
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Lost Icon of a Revolution.
Yes.
It's an incredible book.
Yes.
Henry was an incredible person.
Yes.
When I got there, James, I was a walk-on, and James and Virgil were the two black guys on the football team. And being a walk-on, man, I mean, I'd start going to class at 7 in the morning. I'd go to class till around midday, and then had to be at practice about 2:30, and be at practice till about 6 with film watching and everything. And then I'd walk home. I didn't have a car. I had to walk everywhere I went. And on many an evening, Henry, James, and Virgil would invite me over to the dorm, and they couldn't take me upstairs in the dining hall, but they would bring food down to me and feed me. And so that's the kind of relationship that we had. And Henry was our leader, and you're absolutely right, because I can remember James being told that he shouldn't be with Henry.
Yes.
And
And vice versa.
and then when Henry left and James was there, I was told I had to watch out for James. And it's like, look, if I got to watch out for James, then something's wrong here.
Right.
Because he is the most honorable person that we have down here. And then they were told, Cedric and Mitch and them were told they had to watch out for me. So it's
In other words,
way.
they didn't want you all conversing at all. They didn't want you to get together.
They did.
Wow.
It was interesting. But it was great. Gloria, you got anything else you want to tell us?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out and participated in the breakfast this past weekend. Thank you to our scholarship recipients. We had a couple that was unable to attend due to academics studies that was required of them last Saturday. Thank you to President Roberts, A.D. Cohen, and all of the support staff across Auburn University, and then all of those amazing trailblazers. This is not the end, it's just the beginning. So we just were honored to be able to bring them together, and they were ready to come. So, I just want to say welcome home again, and thank you, everyone. It was amazing.
Let me say to you a special thanks, because you were not only involved, your daughters were there who are part of the foundation. And so your entire family was represented and put in a lot of work. And we thank you guys for that. It was incredible.
It was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these photos now. They're so
amazing.
And I got to reunite with my room. I had great roommates. Virgil first, and I was so glad that Virgil got to come back. The Big O and Mitzi. Those were my three roommates over the period of time I was there in the dorm, and three great guys. I was very fortunate.
Yeah, and I wanted just to say that Henry's brother, wife and daughter was supposed to have been there on Saturday, but I got a message from him earlier in the week, last week, that they would not be able to come. But we wanted to reach out to even the surviving families of those who have gone on to glory. So
And Willie Smith's wife was there. Dawn.
Exactly. Donna, we had a little memorial for all of those former trailblazers who were deceased. And we wanted to reach out to all of their families, but time didn't permit. But it wasn't for a lack of trying. I want to thank Barbara and yourself and Mitzi again, and the former athletes themselves who contacted friends. So that's our message going forth to former athletes. If you have contacts, we're building a network. send them to us so that when you're trying to find someone from your past, um, sports related or in other areas, and we definitely need contacts for the women because we were only able to get in touch with Wendell Merritt. And what an awesome
Yeah, she
she
was
is.
awesome.
I mean, yes, I enjoyed from the first time. And I give you this tidbit. When I first left her a message, she forwarded it on to her family. So they thought I was Jesse Owens' wife reaching out. So they were all excited. I said, okay, let's back up a little bit. No, wrong Owens, James Owens. So we got a big chuckle out of that.
Good.
So I said, well, if I was Jesse's wife, I'm getting close to 100 now.
I talked to Wendell last night. We talked for hours on the phone, and she was just so excited. She's actually watching today, so I want to say good morning, Wendell. And there's several of our trailblazers who are watching with us this morning. Mike McLeod, and probably others that we don't even know about. But we have quite a few new viewers on this morning, and comments from all of them. So good morning to all of you, and congratulations on being honored on Saturday.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was incredibly special. It put me back in mind of being out there on that practice field, and you know, the hard work that we put in, and to have those Saturdays. And I always like to brag and say that we had great years then.
Yes.
And
through it all.
Yep. And Henry and Daddy were a big part of it. And then, you know, they left, and I was the oldest, and Cedric and Mitzi and Reese and Butterball were the guys who were, quote, under me. And that was an honor to try to ensure that they went to class, and they did. Cedric and Mitzi were great students, graduated, and that was part of what we had to do. You know, we're not going to come here and leave without degrees.
Reese was a great student too.
Reese graduated.
Yeah, you said Cedric and Mitzi were great students. You didn't say.
Oh yeah, well I did. You know, Reese I was only there for 1 year with Reese, and so I didn't work with him that much. I don't know why Sullivan didn't show. I thought he was going to be there.
I did too.
But anyway, so thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gloria, for all your hard work. I know you're tired.
Well, work still calls, so I am using my work computer. I thank Domestic Violence Intervention Center for allowing me to bring it home because we just about burned ours up. So I think we're going to need a new printer and computer because we just had so much information. But we enjoyed it. We did what we had to do. And a shout out to our board, who was amazing. And I mean, at the last minute, you know, we got calls, and I know you got to go. You know, we said we got many calls. Well, what's the transportation? You know, with the 6:30 game, then the transit is not working. So I told my daughters, I said, okay, we're going to have to be Uber drivers. So we've got some barrier passes, and when the calls came in, they went out to transport people back to the Coliseum. So it was amazing, and we just thank everyone.
You're very welcome on my end. So I will close this out here with my closing commentary for today, or as I see it. I want to make sure that President Chris Roberts of Auburn University knows how much I appreciate his participation in the Forgotten Ones breakfast this past weekend. While it was outstanding that we had 30-some athletes return to campus, it was equally rewarding to have the university's new president be as involved as he was, and hopefully will continue to be. His influence brought others to the table, namely athletics and the new athletic director, John Cohen, Tim Vines from the Board of Trustees, the support of the fledgling foundation to honest athletes that pioneered integration at Auburn University. Thank you, Chris Roberts. Thank you, John Cohen. Thank you, Tim Vines. Thank you, General Burgess and others. We certainly appreciate you all. And that is how I see it on November 15th in the year 2022. That's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-List guest, Gloria Owens. Thank all of our listeners and followers, just particularly those who follow us in the chat. Becky Davis Gilson, Sonia Wilson Jenkins, Marvin Carter, Vernell Razor, my good friend Anthony Lamont Staten. I'm trying to see Mike McLeod, Barbara Miller, Anthony Tedishi. Somebody's in Ghana today. Becky, I think I called out Becky, Sonia, Antley, Lori, Marvin, and all the people who watch TWT Tuesdays with Thom. We appreciate you. And so I'm going to thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator. Thanks Sean Jones, the organizer and producer of the show, and Got a Minute. Remember, everybody, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.